Bitcoin's back, baby. BTC shakes off the post-Christmas hangover and resumes its upward momentum. AI agents in, memecoins out. Are we seeing a seismic shift in the crypto market, or are AI agents just the latest shiny new thing? DeFi on Bitcoin, unpacking what could be one of the hottest crypto niches of 2025. Broken China. The world's second largest economy is struggling. What does this mean for our bags? And a look at last week's top performing cryptos, tweets of the week, coins to watch, dates for your diary, and much more besides. This is the Coin Bureau News, live.
GM Coin Bureau Crypto Fam, and welcome to the first news live stream of 2025. Can you hear it from the audience over there? Wow. My name, of course, is Nick. You like a live audience, guy?
I like the studio
We hired
audience,
a live audience.
Yeah.
We went out in Dubai and we found a live audience to come and watch us, so we can give some audience ambiance.
We should have had an announcement at the beginning. Coin Bureau News is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Very ad hoc, yeah. How you doing, man? Well,
I'm good.
2025, you ready for this year?
I am ready. My bags are packed.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
ready for a trip to the moon. Exactly.
Almost on the cusp of 100K right now as we start this stream.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it progresses throughout.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a good launch for obviously what's happening with Bitcoin price right now, right?
Yeah, let's discuss
Speaking of which, let's discuss. So last week, as is usual, at the time of the start of the stream, Michael Saylor announced his Bitcoin buy. And this was the Bitcoin buy of 209 million at $97,000 average price. And of course, you guys will let us know in the comments if Saylor does indeed buy again this week. It seems to be a common theme. Obviously, he has the strategy to buy as long as the 21-21 plan is there. So we'll see if he buys at the start of the stream. So let us know down below, guys.
Absolutely.
Now, will he do it again is the question, because there has been a little bit of FUD out there in terms of like, oh, okay, what about this blackout period that Saylor may not buy? But that blackout period only pertains potentially to like issuance of debt. And over the weekend, Microstrategy announced that they'll be issuing $2 billion in preferred shares and preferred stock, again, to fulfill their cash bag so he can go out and buy more Bitcoin. So yeah, Michael Saylor seems like keen to continue accumulating.
Okay.
Although unfortunately last week, after his accumulation and his buy, Bitcoin did fall. So we rolled into the new year at a weekly low of about 91,000. And if you'll recall back to that stream, guys, we did say that the price charts were looking a bit bearish. But things have begun to improve. What could have explained that fall in Bitcoin price? Well, one, for example, was the Coinbase premium. So you've got this chart here. For those who don't know, the Coinbase premium, guys, it basically measures the price of Bitcoin on Coinbase versus offshore exchanges. So it gives you a good barometer of how bullish or bearish Coinbase, users are compared to offshore exchanges. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Coinbase generally more institutional focused from those buyers there.
Yeah, most big institutions will go via Coinbase. Certainly most
US-based ones, the ones that are obviously buying it spot. And we also had some sizable ETF outflows, specific over the last week, although Friday we'll come to the Friday inflows, but on Thursday, we had a pretty big outflow from BlackRock's IBIT.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the largest ever, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite something for IBIT. I mean, IBIT is by far the biggest of those spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see it have such a large outflow. That one in particular. And it has been 2 weeks of a streak of outflows from BlackRock's IBIT. So we've got the chart there. However, as I said, prices have improved. Now we'll be back onto the cusp of 100K. And as I said, on Friday, there was a big inflow. But what other things can we look at to explain the recent recovery? Well, for example, we'd seen a decrease in the exchange inflows, Bitcoin exchange inflows. This obviously shows that less people are sending Bitcoin to exchanges to sell. So it could mean less sell pressure. Mm-hmm. Traders in the options market. He's just bought. There we are. Michael Saylor has just bought more. Has acquired 1,070 BTC for circa $101 million at $94,004 per BTC.
94,004. So he must have got it. He must have been buying over some time then to announce the buy now, because 94, it's 99 now, right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
So they now hold 447,470 BTC.
What a degen. Not even, he's still hungover by that New Year's party. We're still hitting that buy, that Bitcoin New Year's party in Miami.
I'm looking forward to hearing the alpha from that party from Ben Cowan.
He was there,
Sailor's Bash. Looking forward to hearing how that went down. So Sailor's average buy price is now $62,503 per Bitcoin. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Bitcoin patrons.
What a legend.
Yeah. Anyhow, sorry, Nick, you were saying.
It's fine. It's worth interrupting. That's the most important news of the day, obviously. And of course, one more thing, traders are incredibly bullish in the options market. Someone, in fact, went balls deep into a call option long $6 million worth for March 28 expiry with 100K expiry strike, which therefore means if it's not over $100,000 at the end of March this year, he loses that $6 million. But if it's much higher, which he's probably expecting it will be, nice asymmetric bet there for the chap.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I mean, lots of bullish metrics out there, it seems, and obviously the price is kind of reflecting that. But it's not just in the charts and what have you. We've also got bullish news on the kind of nation-state adoption front. It seems like all the talk around the possibility of a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States, which, as we discussed last week, we don't really think is all that likely to happen. However, just the discussion of it is enough to get politicians in other countries talking. And of all places, they've been discussing it in Switzerland.
Switzerland, indeed, yes. I mean, the place you'd expect most conservative Swiss bankers not to consider Bitcoin as an investment. And in this case, it's the Swiss National Bank themselves, so the central bank in Switzerland. And it's a motion that's been set into, and it has to basically acquire 100,000 signatures to pass a public referendum. Okay. But it's going to a vote. And if we can get enough signatures, so if you're Swiss, all the Swiss viewers, please, guys, go and sign this petition.
Absolutely.
And we could potentially add it to the Swiss National Bank. And Hong Kong politician has also said and lobbied for a Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Okay.
And he said potentially this could, it's good not just for Hong Kong, but also potentially the mainland as a, counterbalance to the US accumulating. And I think that there's just going to be this, and many people have speculated that this nation-state rush to accumulate Bitcoin, this digital gold rush, it's like a geopolitical, they want to accumulate before their political rivals or their allies. So we could see more countries front-running the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Kind of like game theory, but on an international scale.
Exactly.
And I mean, really, you don't actually need a strategic Bitcoin reserve to be passed, to be approved in the United States for this to happen. I mean, like I said, just the very talk of it seems to have been enough to start this conversation among politicians kind of all over the world. Whether or not any country will follow through on this. I mean, I guess it's one of those things we won't hear about it until long after it's happened in most cases. So, I mean, maybe there are countries out there that have already begun accumulating to try and front run the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And there's been a lot of speculation, obviously, around what the price might be if this nation state accumulation starts happening. We've got this article from CoinDesk talking about that. Galaxy Research reckons 185K. This year, if indeed nation state adoption starts to pick up.
And what's interesting point there is Galaxy Research in one of their predictions is that we won't have the US government won't go out and buy Bitcoin, so they won't be having the strategic reserve, or they won't initially be buying Bitcoin to put into the strategic reserve, which therefore means that's their price prediction even without the strategic reserve. So that's interesting. So that's a base case,
We did have a strategic reserve,
much higher than 105K.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll take it either way. I think I think 185K this year. I don't think many people would be complaining about that. And just to hammer that point home, last year Bitcoin was, surprise, surprise, the best performing asset of the year.
The major asset class, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely streets ahead of the competition.
Yeah, and if you're a TradFi investor and you've seen that performance and you know that there's ETFs, you don't want to be left behind, right? And it's also a risk-adjusted basis, right? In terms of risk-adjusted basis, Bitcoin is the best risk-adjusted asset to invest in last year among most of the major asset classes. Now, quickly before we move on, I want to quickly run through where we could be going. And again, I'll be turning to some charts from our trader, Mariano. And I will, of course, refer you guys to his video at the end because it gives a much more bigger breakdown, obviously with numerous other charts. But two of the most interesting charts from his latest analysis. And one point I want to note is, remember last week I told you Mariano said he was going to enter a bullish swing trade.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone was so bearish. And he actually entered at like 92K.
Okay.
And then it rallied after that. So he basically based that on the fact that most of the people and the bears in the comments were throwing hate at him. And he used that as a contrarian indicator that this could potentially be a good position to enter. But anyway, so his latest charts, we look at the weekly chart, and you'll see this weekly chart has what's called the bull market support bands. So these are moving averages. And it's important to have held above. If you see the weekly charts, it's been holding above the 98K level over there, and it broke through about 2 weeks ago. So potentially we could have been testing the bull market support bands. However, because Bitcoin ended last week above the 98K level there, we could potentially see one additional point for us to not have to reach that Bitcoin bull market support band. And you don't want to reach it now in the cycle, which is too early in the cycle. We haven't, in the previous 2021 cycle, we didn't touch the bull market support band for quite some time, only in the 2017 cycle. So that basically shows that we potentially now could be above it, and it means that we're not likely going to hit the bull market support band lower levels. Okay. On the daily chart, though, this is a structure of lower highs and lower lows and lower highs. So we are now at the lower high, and we need a daily to form a swing low, and ideally we want it to be putting in a higher high on the daily, right? So you can see there where it's drawn. So we go the swing low and then the higher high on the daily. Okay. And the level we want to watch here on the daily is the 101K level for a breakout. So that's the level it's drawn in there. And if we break above 101K, for instance, at the end of today, then that could be a level we could break in through that, and we could be going higher potentially.
Okay.
Again, I will, of course, refer you guys to watch Mariano's latest video over on Coin Bureau Trading. We've just broken 51,700 subscribers, as you guys can see over here. And if you want to subscribe, of course, you can do so right over here. Well, I'm not on the screen now, so there. You guys over there. The QR code in the top. There we go.
Up in the top right.
Up in the top right. There we go. I'm touching it like I'm Jesus. There we go. Behold the QR code. Behold. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, and we also streamed on the Trading Channel last week.
On Friday,
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was great. What am I doing in that thumbnail?
You're pulling faces, Guy. You're making a thumbnail.
It's like I'm communicating with a higher power.
Yeah, you're praying, you know.
Yeah.
Behold the crypto gods. Please, can you take us to new all-time highs?
I'm trying to make contact with AIXBT.
With Satoshi.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's move on then. Before we talk about meme coins versus AI coins, can I just a gentle reminder, folks? Please do subscribe
and do hit the like. And guys, if we hit 1,000 likes during the stream, then two things are going to happen. One, we're going to get Guy to drink this can of Snack Energy.
What? Oh.
And two, Guy's going to reveal an interesting coin you've just been accumulating.
Well, so hang on, I'm going to do two things. What are you going to do?
I mean, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to commentate on it.
Right. Okay. Okay. So I got to drink a can of Snack Energy and tell you which AI coin I've gone it. Right. Okay. Fine.
So guys, that's it. 1,000 likes. Let's see it happen.
All right. Well, yeah. You better make it happen. All right. So let's talk about meme coins versus AI coins. Obviously, if you've been paying even the slightest bit of attention over the last week or so, over the last couple of weeks, you'll have seen that AI agent coins have just been going absolutely bananas. Obviously, Virtual's protocol, that AI agent infrastructure play on Base, has been kind of leading the charge. And, you know, every kind of podcast, you know, so many YouTube channels have been like talking to the people behind these projects. And yeah, they are just eating up mind share. So the question becomes, like a lot of people have already sort of been pointing out on Twitter and elsewhere, like, are these just, you know, meme coins with a kind of AI wrapper, or are they something more? And is the meme coin meta dead? And is this the new meme coin meta? So, I mean, let's just start by quickly talking about meme coins, because I think
as the top gainers later is going to reveal, maybe it's a little bit early to declare them dead. But certainly, as I said, the mind share has been elsewhere recently. That said, I think the markets would disagree with me. The total meme coin market cap is near all-time highs.
Yeah, pumping.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
It's just crazy. And of course, one particular meme coin that's just been crushing it, and it's one of the top gainers, and we'll mention it, is SPX 6900. So this is a meme coin that's got a very militant community. It's obviously one of the top picks and the biggest holding of Murad Mammadov, who, of course, I've interviewed, guys, and you can watch that interview on More Coin Bureau. And he talked about that in that interview. Aaron actually did a video on Coin Bureau trading on SPX 6900.
Oh yeah.
And the goal of it is obviously their goal is to flip the S&P 500, right? And it's, I mean, you got to aim for the stars. Like you got to aim for the stars, and you'll hit the ceiling. But it's a really militant community, and it encapsulates this feeling of like the strong community, very strong militant community in this meme coin. Okay. And it's got this ideal and this goal they're trying to go towards. So that's been hitting all-time highs. Pump.fund revenues are still flying. So we've seen 400 million, the revenues near 400 million, and they had large revenues on the first few days of January as well. Okay. So people are just still chopping out those meme coins, like factory production meme coins on Pump.fund. They're just flying out.
I mean, that's something, isn't it? Because I mean, Pump.fund, like, just because I think when it came out and it really started to gain traction, I think there was a lot of, I kind of thought, well, how long is this sustainable for? Like, can this last? But I mean, it's lasted a lot longer than I perhaps would have imagined. 400 million, that's a serious revenue.
It is, but I mean, people want to gamble, right? People want to launch their own meme coins, right? And it does make it easy, right? I mean, it's a lot easier, and getting the liquidity and bootstrapping that. And of course, Solana, well, speaking of memes, the Solana community is very much keen on memes, right? Because I guess potentially it drives a lot of the volume on Solana. That is true. We talked about that. And they're not so keen on AI agents. They think it's one of the most overrated Solana sectors.
That's interesting. I think that's interesting for many reasons, but partly because so many of these AI agent plays seem to be on base.
Exactly, which is encapsulated, grabbed a lot of that, especially because Virtuals initially issued on base, right? Yeah. So, which of course brings us to what's going on within the AI agent space.
Yeah.
And I will first say, though, guys, if you want the most interesting AI agent alpha, you've got to go to the trenches of the Coin Bureau Discord, the Coin Bureau Club Discord, where basically one of our analysts over there, Kevin, has been calling some of these plays long before they were even big. For example, when he went through this weekend with a post. We saw this basically explaining how some of the gains that would have been seen when first mentioned.
May 2024, he first started talking about virtuals.
Crazy, that's crazy. Wild. So that's a 56x, 57x since second mention, AI16Z 96x. So yeah, if you guys want to join the Coin Bureau Club Discord trenches, the link will be down below. Yeah,
check it out.
Just check it out.
So well done, Kevin.
Yeah.
But yeah, this and as this kind of CoinDesk article points out, these guys have this is just where the attention is at the moment here in meme coins, I guess. And to the point where actually, I mean, you can kind of tell there's a bit of saturation going on because, you're getting these kind of reply bots popping up everywhere. It's already, I think, beginning to annoy people. I know the guys on the Chopping Block podcast were complaining that, whenever they post something now on Twitter, the first 5 replies or whatever are just AI agents, and it wears thin very quickly.
Yeah, and basically in this case, they're probably not even AI agents in the perspective of they're not developing these own algorithms themselves, right? They're basically just chatbots with pre-programmed things, and they're learning on the go. But many have said that these coins are chatbots with tokens attached to them, or meme coins attached to them. And then this comes to the question of, are these is the tokenized attention now just within the AI space, and these are meme coins just with some sort of an added layer or an added extra step?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thesis of the meme coin super cycle, of Murad's meme coin thesis. It's like most utility coins are just meme coins with extra steps. And there's many questions now. Do some of these AI agents even need a token when they? Obviously, it's important to have a crypto economy because these AI agents could negotiate and chat and pay each other for services in the future economies, and also because some of these are involved in investing on behalf of people in DAOs, and you want to have a financial component, a tokenized component. However, do you need a native token?
Yeah.
And this is a much deeper discussion around many projects that issue their own tokens. Do they really need the token in the first place when they can just utilize the gas token of the native network? So it's an interesting discussion. And in Hasib's tweet thread, who is obviously one of the hosts that you mentioned on the shopping block, he goes through and he makes an even more bearish take on AI agents, and not just about the perspective of whether the token is needed, but whether themselves are just overrated in the sense that crypto just loves the next shiny big thing.
Yeah.
And it will move away once they get annoyed with all of these AI agents just spamming them. And he actually has an interesting theory that as the more agents you get, the less people are going to need human KOLs, and that eventually they will replace the human KOLs' jobs, and that the people will feel sorry for the human KOLs because obviously they've been taken, their livelihood has been taken, and they're going to then want to go back and help their human KOLs, which I don't know.
Okay, so look, in the rate this is going, probably a few weeks' time, when this is being presented by two AIs, the Coin Bureau Live News is being presented by two AI presenters. You guys have got to get in the comments there and ask for Nick and I to be released from whatever dungeon we've been locked in, so as we can make a triumphant return. Yeah,
AI overlords. Yeah,
AI
the
overlords
has logged us away.
Yeah, has enslaved us. Yeah. I think it's an interesting thesis, this of Hasib's, and I think there's a lot of credence to that idea that perhaps, probably arguably 90%, maybe more, of these AI agent plays don't need a token at all. So part of what people should be looking for if they're going to invest in these is there actually, can the project justify having a token in the first place? And that might be a good starting point as a project worth looking into. But I think his point about when the agentic economy grows and you have these agents interacting with each other, then I think that is probably what this space is going to look like in maybe a year, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years from now. So much of what is going on chain will be AI agents interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is kind of, I guess if you thinking about this and sort of looking downstream of what this might mean, it kind of makes me bullish on things like DeFi. Anything that involves kind of a lot of human effort to interact with, say. Like to use, I'm sure I've said this before, but to go on a lot of DeFi protocols, a lot of decentralized exchanges aren't the most user-friendly experience. You've got to kind of be a bit of a crypto native in order to use them. If AI agents are able to go on and do this stuff for you, then I can foresee an absolute explosion in DeFi happening, because people will just be able to issue a set of instructions and then be like, right, you do the hard stuff, you do the complicated on-chain stuff. I don't want to know. I just want to see whatever APR is available.
Exactly. Yeah, you just go and set the parameters for the agent. You set your risk parameters and everything, and then you let it go away and do whatever it wants. So it be it yield farm, it be an airdrop, airdrop hunting. But would you trust? You start with a small amount, right? You wouldn't put your whole entire set on an AI agent. Just run away.
Yeah, a couple of $100 or something.
First guy,
just like
headline, CoinDesk headline: first crypto influencer to be scammed by an AI agent, rug pulled by his own AI agent. Guy from the Coin Bureau.
I should have seen it coming, he said. I've been in this game long enough to know better.
He promised me. He promised me. He said all the right thing. He seems so honest.
He just seems so
like
convincing.
A real honest AI.
He just said his tech was really good. Well, it's interesting you say that, because like one of Hasib's, going back to Hasib's 2025 predictions, one of the things he foresees is kind of a rise in AI scam bots.
Yeah.
So, these guys are going to, these things, I shouldn't say these guys, like they're people. These things, could well go straight into scamming. Don't
assume their gender.
Assume their gender,
Guy,
or anything else. Yeah. So not only are they going to steal all our jobs, but some of them are probably going to steal our money as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, something to look forward to, isn't it? So, Steve, just to finish off on those, he says software engineering as the real disruption. The biggest impact of AI, I'm quoting Hasib from Dragonfly Capital here, the biggest impact of AI will be in software development, drastically reducing costs, enabling more projects, and creating an on-chain renaissance with enhanced security and innovation. I mean, I guess, if you consider that for the past few years, one of crypto's kind of biggest stumbling blocks has been a lack of developer talent.
That is true.
That could be huge. AI agents that are acting as developers, to support developer teams. I mean, that could be huge.
I think last year, remember, one of the biggest concerns for developers, was the fact that AI agents can do this work as well as them potentially, in the future. So yeah,
even the devs are going to be unemployed. The devs are basically the architects of their own downfall and everyone else's. I mean, obviously, as we mentioned, Virtual's protocol has been kind of leading the field here. It's, I guess, if you're looking into this sector, I don't want to call it a safer play, but the infra of this, like Virtuals, and there are others, Top Hat on Solana, things like that. They are perhaps the ones that are quote unquote safer. I think the individual agent projects are likely to be much more risky. But DYOR on these ones, folks. Don't just ape in blindly.
Cookie.fun as well.
Yeah, cookie.fun. That is an interesting website. Yeah. This should be one of your new bookmarks if you're at all interested in this sector, which I presume from the comments, I presume quite a lot of you are. Cookie.fun is where you can find out a lot of the information about these particular projects. So so check it out. Keep it bookmarked. Okay, right. Now a slight change before we move on. Now, a few people in the comments last week accused us rather unfairly with the wall of shame of picking on smaller countries that weren't able to muster the same numbers of viewers as some of the others. So we thought this week we'd go a little more positive. We listened to your feedback. So this week we have the wall of fame for you. So these are the countries with the top 4.
Bro.
That's what Nick looks like with dark hair.
Where's that pencil, Nick, bro? Did these guys oil themselves up before boxing?
I look quite a lot like Rocky, to be honest. I did a bit like Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone, bro.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just pumped it up before. Let's go.
Okay, so the Wall of Fame. We got the Wall of Fame. We got the USA.
US, UK.
I don't know where that is.
Isn't that, that's Aussies, right?
That's Australia, yeah.
And then
Canada.
There we go.
Surprise, surprise. The countries of the top viewers are all English speaking.
Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that. All English speaking countries?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay.
So, there's the Wall of Fame. So let us know in the do you prefer the Wall of Fame? Because I kind of think it's likely to be the same.
All the same countries. The only thing that will be changing is they have to find other bodies to put our heads on.
I like Rocky. Works for me.
It's better than the other one, the Monty Python, Life of Brian, like Wall of Shame ones. We look like nuns. I'd rather look like that than a nun, but
Oh dear. Corel, who does your graphics? We have the best in-house graphics team.
What do you mean graphics? That's how we look, bro.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm a photographer.
Well, I mean
under these t-shirts, it's just a bit of baby oil. Works a dream. Okay.
I'm so interested in the baby oils.
Purge that from your minds. Refocus. Let's start again. Okay, so we're going to talk about Bitcoin DeFi. Now, this is a sector that Nick is extremely bullish on. If you give him half a chance, he will start chewing your ear off here in the Coin Bureau HQ about DeFi on Bitcoin. He's been doing the deep dives on a lot of projects in this sector. And he reckons, and I should say many others reckon, that this could be a big sector, a big crypto narrative, niche, whatever you want to call it, for 2025. So Nick, can you explain why? Why should we care about DeFi on Bitcoin?
Bitcoin DeFi will fly in 2025. Indeed, it's quite an underrated sector, and it's not just me who's saying that. Obviously, there was a few other analysts and market leaders in the space, for instance, that have said that we could see an explosion this year. One is, for example, Matt Hogan, who's the CEO of Bitwise Asset Management. He said there's a lot of demand for Bitcoin yield. Even if you're getting 3% yield, it's attractive compared to other options. And then there's Alexei Zamyatin. He's the CEO of Build on Bitcoin, which we've invested in and who I've interviewed on the More Coin Bureau channel. He says TVL could increase by approximately 300 times. And the reason I think that this is such an exciting sector is because Bitcoin asset class is $1 trillion asset class, right? And it's now just been utilized as people hodl it, right? There's no yield that can be generated. You can't really build on top of Bitcoin. You can't build dApps and DeFi on top of Bitcoin, at least not in a non-custodial way, because of the technology isn't there just yet. But Babylon, for instance, is one of the biggest gainers last year. It's this native staking protocol on Bitcoin.
Yep.
It now has over 5.5 billion in TVL. So it's been exploding over the past year. And there's a lot of other Bitcoin layer 2s projects in the ecosystem, but many of these, so there's the infrastructure side. There's a lot of these tokenized Bitcoins on Ethereum. So tokenized Bitcoin, the CBBTC is one of the newest ones that's launching. And then there's, of course, roll-ups, a lot of roll-ups, including Bob, which we've talked about, B Squared. So there's a lot of these projects building on top of Bitcoin. And the feeling is that once they get the holy grail of being able to settle these zero-knowledge proofs on top of Bitcoin, without relying on bridges or like multi-party computation or any sort of other custodial services, then you have the holy grail of Bitcoin settlement on the main chain, which could lead to an explosion of Bitcoin staking, Bitcoin DeFi, and projects building on top of Bitcoin. So there's a lot of projects building towards that. We could be on that cusp of that major discovery or major implementation that could lead to an explosion here. So it's one to watch for this year. And obviously, like I said, there's other predictions out there as well. Galaxy Digital, as we just talked about, they had crypto predictions for 2025. One of them indeed was, of course, that we could see a doubling in value in Bitcoin DeFi protocols this year. And then there's also, of course, Nick Carter from Castle Island, who has a similar prediction from the podcast there. So it's definitely a sector to watch this year.
Okay, so I mean, as I understand it, then it kind of comes down. It kind of comes down to two things. Basically, Bitcoin holders and especially, I think, institutions are going to want, at some point, sooner rather than later, you would imagine, to be able to earn a yield on their Bitcoin. They don't want to just, they understand the importance of hodling, but if they can earn a yield, so much the better. And this is made, if they can do this at the same time as leveraging Bitcoin security, obviously the most secure network in the world, but can do it in a trustless way. So you don't need to, as you say, you don't need to rely on a bridge or any other third party. It can be done trustlessly, sort of staying true to Bitcoin's core
cryptographically
values.
secure. Exactly. So that's what people are looking at. And it's not just from the perspective of getting a yield, but also building on top of it and having all these dApps that can now be built on the most secure, largest network that there is in crypto. So I mean, and there's some predictions out there in terms of what we could see. Galaxy Digital, for example, last year, they also did a report on Bitcoin L2s, and they looked at this total addressable market, which we can pull up for you. They said they expect about 2.3% of the total share of Bitcoin locked in these DeFi protocols in 2030. But I remember I was on a panel with the CTO of Babylon, and I asked him at the similar time frame by 2030 how much he thinks, and he said he thinks at least 50% of total Bitcoin, which is quite wide. But and to be honest, I mean, like you say, you shoot for the stars, and that is also a question of if it is fully proven to be completely trustless and there's no issues and it keeps on growing. I mean, aim for the stars, right?
Yeah. Well, and I guess, again, it sort of comes down to the fact that there's so much capital now locked up on Bitcoin. I mean, it accounts for over half of the entire crypto market cap. That's an awful lot of capital that people want to put to work. And I mean, because we do have, there are kind of ways of unlocking that capital to go in DeFi, wrapped Bitcoin, CBBTC, Coinbase's version of wrapped Bitcoin, which we've talked about on the show before. But obviously the Bitcoiners themselves aren't too fond of those protocols, are they? Because they kind of involve, you have to wrap that Bitcoin with a custodian.
Yeah, it's stored. It's Coinbase has the keys, or BitGo has the keys, or maybe Justin Sun, depending if that's WBTC. I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to have to trust that. And if you have the massive size if you are a massive Bitcoin whale, and you've been holding it for so long, you're very hesitant to want to do that. But once it's been proven, and it's growing a lot, once it's been proven and tested and been battle tested, I'm sure it'll pick up steam.
Let's see. So, and just before we move on to the final story then, so, I mean, obviously this idea has been around for a while, but there's kind of been technical barriers to this, technical challenges. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, for instance, Bitcoin's for the UTXO model, for instance, it uses that, which of course lacks the flexibility needed for complex smart contracts.
Okay.
And then there's limited scripting as well. So Bitcoin's considered kind of down from a scripting perspective, which is obviously, it's good for security, but it limits what people can do with DeFi applications. And then the term is called, it's not Turing complete. So what Ethereum is, for instance. So its script is not Turing complete, which means you can't implement a lot of these state-dependent smart contracts. So
Okay. Well, I for one am convinced, Nick. I will be watching Bitcoin DeFi very closely this time around, looking for interesting projects in that niche to get involved with. And I mean that could be a real explosion of capital happening there. Okay, let's move on to the final news story of today. Then we're going to have a bit of a macro focus now. Now we talk so much about the U.S. economy and the state that is in and what it all means for crypto, but we should be talking at the moment about China, that place that Donald Trump is so obsessed with, and China. Things aren't all that great with the Chinese economy at the moment.
They aren't, and it's not getting as much mainstream attention as it is in FinTwit or general analysts. But one of the biggest canaries potentially in a coal mine, you can say, is the canary in the Chinese coal mine, if you want, is the bond yields, the 10-year Chinese bond yield. Just look at that. It's crazy how it's been falling. It's near all-time lows. And obviously, China at 1.6%. China last year had a lot of this fiscal stimulus, and stocks did very well. But this bond yield has just continued collapsing, and bonds have been completely rallying and this is a flight to safety. People in China are not consuming as much as the government would want them to. They're not. The loans aren't being issued as much as the government wants them to, and banks are just buying bonds up, like lapping it up, which is obviously leading to this collapse in yields. And some think it could even go below 1% because apparently the inflation rate in China is like 2.72%, like 0.2%, right? So they think that the real yield of China in China is still too high. So the interest rate has to keep falling to get the real yields in historical context. And here's another interesting fact. The Chinese yields, 30-year yields, have actually fallen below those of Japan.
Wow!
Recently, so that's crazy.
Gosh, I'd no idea that they'd been either had been trending in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, and this is why China gets a lot of those Japan comparisons. This balance sheet recession, this deflation, this potential risks of a lost decade, especially if inflation continues falling and you go towards deflation. That's the worst for an economy because it can stagnate because people aren't incentivized to go out and consume. Yeah. And part of the reason why the Chinese government is worried about doing potential fiscal stimulus, massive fiscal stimulus like stimmy checks, like the US did during the COVID pandemic, is because of the fact that what happens if they do that and people, instead of choosing to consume and buy things, they just put it back into a bank account and the banks buy the bonds and then they just keep on falling. That would be a massive embarrassment. So the central bank is planning some policy overhaul this year. They're likely to reduce its current rate to 1.5% from 1.5% at an appropriate time. And it's, of course, driven by the collapsing in credit demand amid this prolonged property slowdown. Of course, property has been the biggest albatross on the neck of many Chinese citizens and the country more broadly.
And I mean, that whole kind of sort of collapse of the property sector, that must have wrecked investor confidence because that was what most Chinese, or the vast majority of Chinese, were putting their investments into.
And leveraging up as well, more than one place, and where they invested that, and even more so than stocks, right? And it completely, this overcapacity and this collapse. And obviously the developers as well, they had many bad loads on there. The shadow banking sector in China was massive, and it was just an overinvestment in property. And now the question is, they need to get consumption going. But China itself as economy is a very advanced economy from the perspective of things they can produce, like EVs, for instance. Right?
I mean, Chinese EVs, here, just anecdotally, here in Dubai, I'm seeing Chinese EVs everywhere.
BYD, I was in one this weekend. It's like, have you been inside one of those things? It's like as impressive as a Tesla, 100%.
It's really good. Yeah, really smart. And everyone kind of raving about them. But I was looking online and they are, they are flooding the market. I mean, they are cheap.
They're relatively affordable, exactly. Yeah. So, and obviously, well, this comes to the question about what's this going to mean for trade relations, because which we'll get onto the tariffs is one thing for the US, but the Europeans aren't too happy about what the flooding of Chinese EVs on the European market is doing to their car market, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, Volkswagen in Germany is in big trouble, isn't it? Huge layoff. I mean, that is a kind of cornerstone. VW is a cornerstone of the German economy.
Exactly. So, and then of course we come back to the tariffs. There's lots of threats of tariffs that Trump is laying out, and there's been a tit for tat. Export controls on goods used within military, and questions around Nvidia and Nike, the Chinese is investigating. So there's going to be this tit for tat, and the question is, could these tariffs be a big nail in the coffin for the economy right now?
Yeah.
It does have a tie into crypto.
Okay, I mean, because I think this is the big question, because the Chinese government doesn't like crypto at all. Yeah. It's not to say that they've banned it. That's kind of it's a bit of a misnomer, but they are certainly not fans of it. But crypto is kind of tolerated in China, but there are restrictions. But the actual Chinese populace are pretty keen on it. Yeah. So I mean, and I guess what worries the Chinese government about it perhaps the most is this idea of capital controls, of this idea, because I think Chinese investors, one of the reasons they were so big into real estate was they're kind of limited from investing in things like overseas stocks, and the Chinese stock market I don't think is anything particularly special. So crypto was kind of primed for a very technologically savvy population to invest in.
Not just invest in, but utilize as a method to get funds out of China. Yeah. Right. I mean, and that's why these new rules that were implemented, the foreign exchange regulator introduced new rules requiring banks to monitor and report risky trades, which include those involving cryptocurrencies. Right. Okay. And so they and this is obviously could impact potentially on Chinese demand for stable coins and Bitcoin as well, to be able to get their funds offshore. So that's on the consumer front. But one other point to note, of course, is that the Chinese government is the second largest holder of Bitcoin as a sovereign nation, at 180,000 Bitcoin, second only to the US.
Wow.
And I mean, there's potential concerns there. I mean, for one, it's potentially bullish or concerning, depending on which way you want to look at it. Bullish in the sense that maybe they would want to accumulate. We're coming back to what we initially said in terms of, front running the US accumulation, and back to also what the Hong Kong politicians said about the strategic value of it. But then also they could dump it, if they need the funds, or if they want to if you want to put your conspiratorial hat on, make Trump look bad. Because if 180K BTC hit in the market, that could really sink prices.
Yeah.
Trump's made Bitcoin his center point of, his pro-crypto pivot. So
I for one, though, I think the demand would be there. Like, obviously, if China jeeted its bags onto the market Germany style, it would be a lot worse than what happened when Germany did it, and the price would take a big hit. But I think there would be buyers at those levels that it dropped to. I think people would hoover them up.
Yeah, well, it would still drop a lot. And then the question is, if it does drop that much, and then Trump's made it his center point of his policy and all that, and then it makes him look bad, Do
you know who'd buy it, though? If China jeeted its bags onto the market?
I know.
Trump.
Trump?
Yeah, the US would buy it.
US could, or Sailor. I was going to say Sailor. But...
Oh, Sailor. Well, yeah. Michael said, thanks very much. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be worth watching what happens in China. I should also mention, just by it's weird because the US is sort of in a slightly different situation. Maybe not as sticky economically, because the US economy is still powering along, but whereas the Chinese are suffering from the fact that people are locking up capital, the US is just running on debt. I mean, debt is kind of coursing through the veins of the US economy. And I remember talking about this. We were talking about this time last year, the debt ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and a potential government shutdown if they can't agree on a deal to lift the debt ceiling, and that would involve spending from the Treasury General account, which is basically the US government's bank account.
Which could be good. It could be a tailwind for the markets like crypto, because it could increase liquidity. Mm-hmm. As Arthur Hayes named a bad girl Yellen, could just pump liquidity into the markets just before she leaves through the Treasury General account. So we'll see.
Yeah. So lots to watch on the macro front as well as the year progresses. All right, that's all the news stories for today. Let's have a look at last week's top gainers, the top performing cryptos in the top 100, I should say. Now, we've already talked about one, SPX 6900. Yeah. There's definite kind of cult vibes around this.
Total cult vibes, yeah. I mean, if you've seen how militant the community is online, on Twitter and everything.
Now, when you say you've used that word militant, that's interesting. Like, what sort of scale are we talking about? How militant are they? Are they kind of XRP Army, Link Marine, Cardano militant? Are they
just some high benchmarks? Yeah, I think that they're potentially in that same crowd. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
as militant. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't say anything bad about SPX 6900. I mean, it's going gangbusters.
Yeah.
I wonder whether, it's a meme coin. I wonder whether we're actually seeing, because AI agent cryptos have sort of dipped over the last few days. I wonder if we're seeing a rotation from those into meme coins like SPX.
Yeah, and I think price begets more, marketing for it, right? The more people see this coin rally, and they'll want to invest in it. And
as you say, like Murad it's one of the things in Murad's portfolio, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's his biggest bag, and I think it's his most bullish bet, most bullish conviction. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, lots of mind share there. Next up, we have Fartcoin.
There's only one explanation here, Guy.
What's that, Nick?
Hot air rises, mate.
Have you joined the Fartcoin community? Have you been what would be the verb? Have you been farted?
No, I've been farted. I've been taken, transferred.
Yeah. This seems to have picked up. Like, I've seen so many people on the timeline referring to like hot air and thermodynamics.
The stink marines.
The stink Well, with a community like that, with a name like that, where can you go wrong? I mean, fart going to the moon. Okay, next up, I think the only one that isn't a meme coin in today's top gainers is AIOZ.
Yeah, but it's an AI infrastructure play, so it's likely benefiting from this AI agent meta.
Yeah.
Covered it a few times.
Now, do you call it AOZ or AIOZ? I say AIOZ. I should say AIOZ because I'm British, but
I go AOZ. I mean,
AOZ.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is Pengu.
Pengu, yes. I mean, crazy. We actually have a video coming out on Pudgy Penguins and the Pengu ecosystem. Obviously, it's probably the most successful NFT collection there is.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pengu airdrop, there's a lot of exciting things coming for the Pengu ecosystem as well. So potentially results that the mind shares there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we've seen this with projects before, this idea of kind of building a whole sort of ecosystem stuff. But there seems to be, obviously the Pudgy Penguins NFT collection is already out there and very big. They've already got these kind of toys and stuff everywhere. They seem to have good, strong IP, don't they? Like the Pudgy Penguins are very kind of recognizable.
And and you can also get licensing deals for your own NFT. You can sell it, and then you can get potential revenue share from that. So it's a smart idea for sure.
Saving NFTs.
Saving, there we go, man.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Pengu. And again, seeing lots of very bullish stuff about that on the timeline too. And finally, the other top gainer from this week is none other than Mog.
There we go.
Still doing its absolutely mental thing on social media. Mogcoin's Twitter page. I don't know if we've got a link to it there. But that's just exhausting. It's just have you gone through their Twitter page to try and find a reason why it's pumping? Yeah. I think they've got like a 15-year-old intern who's basically hooked up to an intravenous can of SNEC, and is just posting sort of non-stop. It just never stops. Yeah. Okay, so that's last week's top gainers, mostly memes with a bit of AI infrastructure thrown in. Let's have a look at last week's tweets of the week. We've got that nice stuff. Who's up first?
Mine is Paulo Arduino. So obviously he's the CEO of Tether, and this follows on from the discussion last week about all that Tether FUD. And obviously he shared the Maximus, the Gladiator, after 17 rounds of FUD USDT. Are you not entertained? So it's true, man.
Yeah.
Tether stands. Tether will stand.
Keeps going. Have you seen Gladiator 2, by the way?
I have not, thankfully. I've heard it's basically just a exact carbon copy of Gladiator 1. It
is exactly the same story. Exactly the same story. but with Denzel Washington and a fight with a rhino.
And a fight with a rhino.
And they have a sea battle in the Colosseum. That's quite cool.
The AI version of the original one. Slightly more jazzed up.
Yeah, it's just a sort of jazzier Gladiator. I was watching it. I'm old enough to remember when the original Gladiator came out, and I went to see it, and it was just amazing. This one, I was.
You were not entertained.
I was not. I was not entertained. No. Okay, let's have a look at this next tweet of the week. This is from none other but so Zach XBT's is the actual tweet.
Oh no.
So Siki Chen. So this is the guy who we were talking about last week.
I wanted to believe it was this good news story. I wanted to honestly believe there was a good news story about meme coins helping to fund a charity to help this guy's daughter who had a terminal disease. And it was a good news story. And he raised the money, managed to exit. And then a few days later, it turns out that the guy was quite adept at crypto. He's been involved in it for quite some time. And he was accidentally launching other coins and accidentally selling. Sorry, oopsie. Ooh, that mouse click. Oops. Whoopsie.
Wow.
So Zach XBT pointed this out. Obviously, with speculation, but Zach XBT pointed out that he used a similar excuse for other coins he launched. So it's just unfortunate,
It's because he was sort of playing along like he just sort of supposedly didn't really understand what liquidity was.
Yeah, whoopsie. I don't know what this is. Please help me out. I don't know what's going on, guys. What's happening?
I don't want to rug anyone. Oh, I've done it before. Okay, well, this is why we can't have nice things, I suppose. Okay, here's next tweet of the week. This is from
Videmo.
No, this is from Zia. Flip. Someone just sold 5 of their pudgy penguins for only 175 USD. So his theory is they must have mistaken 35 USDC for 35 ETH.
That could be the theory, or potentially somebody who wants to declare the loss on their pudgy penguins accidentally for the taxman. Just theory there, maybe, guys.
Yeah,
I somehow think if you have that many pudgy penguins, you wouldn't make such a mistake and sell it all at once.
I mean, selling them all at once seems an odd thing to do. Yeah. Okay, wheels within wheels, folks. All right, next one is from Vidamo. So the TLDR. The TLDR of this one is: imagine you've just been into Bitensor whatever you call it, for however long, and you've read the white paper from cover to cover again and again and again. You've got deep into the weeds, and then it's a tale as old as time. You get flipped by a meme coin, and in this case, it was
your interest peaks. You dig and dig, but find nothing until you finally realize you got flipped by fartcoin. Fucking fartcoin. To be clear, guys, I don't think it's flipped it yet, but if that does happen, oh man, that will be you look for the white paper as well. I want to know about this coin. I want to read about what sort of it's doing for the agentic economy. Hot air rises. That's the only explanation.
I mean, we see this a lot, don't we? I mean, this is a sort of favorite of people on Twitter, just to go and post, this particular meme coin has flipped this particular project, which is actually trying to do something serious. It's been around for years. I think something flipped Aave not all that long ago, like the blue chip DeFi protocol, which is, TVLs going up and up, and someone pointed out that, it's just been flipped by some complete nonsense. That is what it's like being in crypto, folks. You just got to get used to it. Okay, and finally, the last tweet of the week is this one from Saigar. I think this is based. I think he's absolutely on point. He or she is absolutely on point with this. Very good chance that some of the best crypto AI projects we'll see this cycle don't exist or are very under the radar right now.
Super based. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind as you wade through this rising tide of AI agent projects, trying to find the good ones. The real winners may not be apparent yet. They're probably waiting to be found. Okay, Nick, tell us about a couple of coins to watch.
So coins to watch this coming week, both in the next few weeks, is coming both on Solana. And they're both airdrops. So one is Sonic. Now, this is not to be confused with the rebranded one on Phantom, but it's basically a Solana layer 2 tap to earn kind of game. And they go in the airdrop claims. TGE, I think, is tomorrow, and the airdrop claim starts. So you guys may want to check that out if you're eligible. We'll leave a link to that below. And then another really big one, which everyone is super excited about, and one which we've talked about before, is Jupiter. And they go into this January aptly named Jupiri airdrop of $625 million is being distributed. There's apparently 2.3 million wallets are eligible, and it's split between the fixed and variable payouts. So yeah, this is obviously Solana, a massive DEX aggregator on Solana.
Okay. So 2 coins to watch there, and 2 dates for the diary. Well, 3 events, 2 dates for the diary. First is the Jolt's job openings on the 7th, which is tomorrow, Tuesday. 7.7 million was the previous. And 7.7 million forecast.
Exactly. So coming in at the previous number. And then, of course, on January the 10th, Friday, big day. Of course, the first NFP, non-farm payrolls of the year. 227K was the previous, and 155K is now the consensus for this year, this month, past month. And then the unemployment numbers as well, 4.2% previous, 4.2 consensus. And these are obviously very important, the first of the year. It will obviously give us a bit of another data point from the perspective of Fed policy, the dual mandate, employment, how it's looking. So it's important to keep a check on what happens on Friday.
Okay. Of course, no Fed meeting this month.
Yeah,
we've got a month off from the Fed and its interest rate, Jerome's interest rates decisions. So they'll be back in February, right?
Yeah, exactly. Smooth all the way to the inauguration.
Okay. It's going to get interesting. Yeah. Interesting times ahead. All right. Before we close out, let's just have a look at some of your comments.
Well, firstly, how many likes have we got?
Oh, yeah, how many likes have we got,
guys? Guys.
Listen, I don't think I could do a can of snack. I'm too old for that. Jean Francis. That's a very old school name. Hola, gents. Nick, put those guns away. Yes, come on, Nick.
Sorry. It's so difficult to hide, It's
Diego says China. Again, I think this one's for you, Nick.
I'm not flexing my chest. What are you talking about, bro?
Oh no, he's talking about me. Sorry. Buy baby oil.
There's probably a meme coin already being created on pump.fund right now.
God,
with those images as the meme.
Please. This one, Schweb also asking, do you guys think a Bitcoin fork will happen?
No.
Another one?
Unlikely. Not right now.
Maybe over this whole quantum thing.
That is
quantum
true,
resistance.
That's something that's long and
we can worry about that in the future. So a few conflicting views on AI agents. AI is the future, so AI agents won't be going anywhere no time soon. I kind of agree with that. I think AI agents in general are here to stay, and I think they're kind of only just getting started in terms of what they can do. The problem is a lot of these AI agent cryptos are going to go to zero.
A lot of them, 99% of them will, but the 1% that remains.
Yeah.
And it also think back to previous crypto history, right? How many of these projects back in 2013, 2014, how many of these altcoins were there? And what is stuck, right? So there's the 1% that does remain, that's going to, be the change of the future.
That's the game. You've got to pick out the 1%. Dan A says, Bitcoin bought now will be held for decades. Yeah,
that's true. If you're a hodler,
especially if they can find a way to generate yield from it, like Nick was talking about earlier. So, again, another reason why Bitcoin DeFi could take off. Now, this one gives me hope. Banana Republic 2039, Guy, have some potential. Let me put you on a power building regime.
Power building regime. Let's hear that, man.
What's that? A lot of protein and lifting weights, is it?
Yeah, that's probably it, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And you got to obviously go to the gym. There's a gym in the building, guys.
I knew there was a catch.
There's a catch. You got to go to the gym. You got to go and pump, bro. Max weight, max bench, bro.
Go to the gym in the building that's full of all those psychopaths.
Well, I mean,
there are some strange. I tell you,
at the right time.
There's a fighters MMA gym in this building. Some of the specimens you see wandering about in the lobby, genuinely terrifying looking people.
Massive guys,
massive,
and fighters as well. Some of the top UFC guys box at that gym.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite famous. Yeah.
Okay, well,
he's also got a podcast. We should get you on.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm going to be dashing out later on. Okay, Danny says, I welcome the Chinese EVs in Europe. We can't afford to buy new Mercedes anymore. Well, that's the play. That's what they're.
That is true.
That's what they're doing.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. David has a question. Any views on Aptos since the CEO resigned? You interviewed Mo.
Yeah, I interviewed him. Yeah. Look, there's conflict in views here, and it's all speculation. I mean, I don't know whether it was a resignation or whether it was kind of forced out. There has been this speculation. To be honest, my perspective, I've also met Avery, who's the now new CEO. He was the CTO previously. Great guy. So I think that in terms of, most importantly, I think if a project is reliant on one single individual, right, then it's it's too centralized, right?
Yeah.
So if everything relied to be on Mo, and if Mo resigns and leaves, then the project was always too centralized and it was never a good investment. Although it seems like now the strong, same smart engineers are there, same people are working on it. It's just the one figurehead who left, right? So, I think that obviously there's a massive team there. It's a massive company behind it, development team. So I think there's still got potential. But obviously, yeah, the questions around his resignation or whatever you want to speculate it is potentially concerning. But yeah.
Okay. And the final question, the one we all really want the answer to, Bill is asking the big ones. How did they get sharks in the Colosseum?
Wait a second. Was that a
Was that Gladiator 2? They had a sea battle with sharks. I'll tell you, Bill, I'll tell you exactly how they did it. CGI. That's how they did it. I don't know. I'm sure all these people who think about the Roman Empire every day.
We need 50 likes. 50 likes to reach
And that is all for today's Coin Bureau live newscast. Guys, it has been great to see you. Thank you for joining. Nic, good to see you again.
You too, man.
We will be back next week. Cue that outro
Adios,
music.
Guys.
Nic will be in his true superhero form. And Guy, just keep being Guy. That's as superhero as you get. Thanks, Mr. G and Thor. You guys are great. That's quite all. 1K likes, show us some trouser surfer boy. Leggy, GM Michael Saylor, prepare the buy button. Happy New Year, all Happy New Year, folks. Smash those likes, people. Oh, Shameless, how long has that leg been back? Happy New Year to you both. Take your top off, Nic. GM Michael Saylor, prepare the buy button. Happy New Year, all Happy New Year, folks. Smash those likes, people.